Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. Good morning, everyone. And Tommy, how are you doing?
Good morning, Mike. Back into it, man. Back into the grind.
Here we are, our second episode of 2026. We're kind of doing a couple of fun episodes here. This episode's another one of these fun episodes. It's called, we're going to call this one the Fabric Awards, is what we're going to call this episode. We're just going to kind of give out some silly awards for things that happened around Fabric, things that we liked, things that we are going to tease about and pick on a little bit here, but just some funny awards. This is, what is it, Tommy? There was a show that's, where the points mean nothing and the awards are fictitious.
Whose line is it anyway?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, the game doesn't matter and the points mean nothing. Yeah, so this is literally, Mike, the Fabric made up awards. None of these awards exist. They're not real. You cannot find them anywhere. We literally made them up as an excuse to talk about more things about Fabric. But but really, like, if we were to hand out awards to 2025 and what Microsoft did, this is the awards that we would want.
Yes, agreed. All right. All right, so let's jump into some awards here. I will move things around here a little bit on our note board. Before we get into our main topic around giving out some awards, I do want to I found an article. I found a post. And Tommy, I get up in the morning and I read through some things, and I see a lot of people from the Microsoft community. And there's one individual that Tommy and I really respect. He's a legend in the space. And this is Marco Russo. So for the chat here, everyone knows who SQL BI is and Marco Russo's are. I'm gonna say I feel like I've been vindicated here a little bit. Marco is a staple in the Fabric Power BI space. He's been heavily semantic model. That is the primary place that he's been spending his time and his knowledge. That's where he came from. That's kind of how he started all that. He did MDX and then went into SQL, now into all the semantic models. There's a whole bunch of stuff that Marco's team knows how to do. Very wise individual. Well, Tommy, here's a post that I want to review with you. Marco just recently put out here on Twitter recently, and the Twitter post here is actually in the chat as well, in case you want to go look at it as well. Marco talks about this is my first post of the year, and then it's about Fabric, is what Marco says. This is January 2nd is when he pushed this out. And let me just read a couple excerpts from this to you, Tommy, because I feel like at some level I feel a bit vindicated through his comments here. What I thought was a gut feeling has been confirmed by validating multiple tests. I love this when people write tests about things and do stuff, especially the things that Marco Russo team does. Like, they're very good about like doing specific tests cleanly and clearly. I would love to see the results of his test in this as well. Clearly, what follows is valid for me and may not be valid for other scenarios. He's some caveats here, but I'm pretty confident with my conclusion. Okay, summarizing a couple things here. Using notebooks is the cheapest and fastest way to ingest data. Pipelines, data flows Gen 2, and copy tasks are more expensive in CUs and typically a slower execution time. I'd even go maybe so far as to say I would even prioritize those items. I would say notebooks by far has been the fastest thing that I've been using. Then there is the next fastest thing would probably be pipelines. I think it's the next fastest. And I don't know about speed or cost, but I think cost-wise, data flows Gen 2 is the next most efficient CUs and fastest.
Yeah.
And copy jobs or copy tasks, I've had mixed results with. It seems like it's kind of worked. It's been somewhat helpful. It makes it kind of easy, but it still seems like one of the more expensive items. Seems on par with the data flows Gen 2 experience. And that's kind of what I was experiencing. And it's having other people confirm what I already have heard or I'm testing myself feels nice.
You know, it's funny, Mike, because this is not just a Fabric thing. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but notebooks have been kind of the de facto and the preferred choice for data engineers for years.
Well, let me just give some context around this one. So I've been doing a lot of data engineering. I stepped into the world of data engineering when Spark and Lakehouses and Databricks kind of really were coming onto the playground, basically. There's a new kid on the playground, and it was Databricks, right? That was the space in which I was really kind of interested in, really enjoyed it. I thought it was super fast. I really like this idea of like separating the storage from the compute. Microsoft had a number of visions of how this would work, and arguably like Synapse was doing some of that. They had a Spark engine, like so. Microsoft was doing some things. There's massive parallel processing with their their SQL data warehouse. It was taking a lot of similar notes from what Spark was doing, but it was always too expensive. To me, the efficient piece of this was Spark and Lakehouse storage. So I guess I would say, Tommy, maybe I came in at a weird time, but it feels to me like the technology shifted to lake houses and Spark, became highly efficient and very commoditized for regular people to use it, and make it easier for us to leverage these type of technologies. It just feels like I came in at a weird.
Yeah, no, but again, these aren't this is the crazy thing, Mike. After really 2 years now of all these innovations with Fabric, this is not anything new, right? This is something
No.
that this has been the preferred way. And like Marco's not saying anything, he shouldn't be saying anything groundbreaking in terms of like, whoa, I can't believe that's finally where we've come to the conclusion. We've known this pre-Fabric, right?
Yes, I
And
would
so
agree.
yeah, and I think
Fabric
that's
feels like they're
where
catching up a little bit, maybe.
I think that's where just the validation is like, yes, we can try all these things and copy jobs and get data flows better and have a real time. But at the end of the day, right now, we have something that has not been beat, and that is notebooks. And I've seen that very quickly, Mike, when I first got started, where it was an immediate, even at my, just beginner stage and doing basic things on how fast and efficient it would be. Um, did I enjoy it the most? Yeah, I was getting used to it, but in terms of going from data flows and going from Power Query, and going from that world, no, this is nothing. If you've already been in this world, nothing groundbreaking here. However, it does need to be said, and Marco feels the need to say it too, where it's like, yes, we're trying all these things in Fabric,
Yes,
but don't go away from the thing that's been tried and true.
I still think he's not saying anything about like where do you land it on the semantic model. Again, I just like another set of ears or another set of technical people really reviewing this and kind of giving me another the thumbs up of saying like, look, notebooks are the way to go. And other kind of obvious observations, I guess, that Marco provides here. Um, he said both PySpark and T-SQL notebooks work well. Again, Marco prefers working in the SQL notebooks. Again, that makes sense because of his background. I'm okay in the Python notebooks. Um, one of the things he does point out here that I think is very useful is when you use large language models, they definitely can help you write Python and language and build things, but you can't trust them blindly all the time. You do need to make sure you know what you're doing, but they do give you a lot of assistance around what the code is doing, and you can test it. I think it's fairly easy to test these things. Um, he says large language models 100% definitely makes you more productive, especially for PySpark. So things you don't know, gaps in knowledge. You may understand SQL, but you don't know how to do the same thing in PySpark or Python Spark. Use large language models. I would agree. This is a sentiment I've seen really well. I use a lot of the time, I use the free Copilot in my browser more than I use Copilot that comes out of the box from Fabric, because if I use the Copilot in my browser, it doesn't cost me anything. I get 0 CU usage if I use the one that comes out of my Edge browser, as opposed to using the Copilot that's actually in Fabric. So that's another trick I'll give you here as well.
It doesn't need to spin up, which is great. I don't have to add extra code. And
Yep.
isn't that crazy, Mike? Yeah, I use the Copilot in Edge, and right away it'll just start generating code. The Copilot in Notebooks takes a little time, and sometimes it just comes back with sorry,
gibberish. Can't answer that question.
Unable to process that. Like, that was awesome.
The initial versions of Copilot in the notebooks, very lackluster. I think it's gotten a lot better since then. So I think it definitely has been improved. It seems to give me more answers now. But still, why would I spend 400 or 100 CUs asking it a question when I can use the Edge browser and get the same CU usage for free? Right. And also my Edge browser, I pay for the Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot. So I have the work and then personal version of Copilot in my Edge browser. I just use that. Like, again, that's $10 flat cost. I can use it as much as I want without actually charging me any CU usage. Right now, it feels like a better deal.
And honestly, Mike, those two. Well, we've talked about this with AI and these AI tools where it's going to get to the point as soon as you use it, if it doesn't do what you want, people will move on. What's going to cause you to, in a sense, get away from that habit? Because I do the same thing where the speed, the just efficiency of it. Yeah, I have all the do you use Edge sidebars? Like you can actually add like apps to your Edge side panel.
That's an interesting question, Tommy. I have not used it. I have noticed every so often if I click a link in Teams, Teams will open the web page in Edge and immediately open up the Teams sidebar for me. Kind of
Mhm.
interesting. I kind of like that a little bit sometimes. But other than like Teams and Copilot, there's not really many other sidebars that I specifically use inside Edge. I don't use it very much. Do you have other sidebars, Tommy, that work for
Dude,
you?
yeah, and you don't have to install anything. It's just literally a bookmarking site. So I have open ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, and obviously the Copilot is a little more integrated because obviously it's a Microsoft product.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'll just be, especially if I'm dealing with a pretty complex thing, I'll
Yeah.
open one sidebar, go, "Hey, Perplexity, can you research this? Because I don't
Mm,
know how that works in Spark." And
sure.
then go to OpenAI. So I have that nice little assistant, which whatever in a sense tool I want. And
Interesting.
Mike, I'll add on here too, since it's really just kind of like almost the mobile view.
Yeah.
I just go to my project because I have a project in all my AI tooling, like for
Mm,
ChatGPT, and
sure.
that's for the Fabric Guru, and has been fed all this information about Fabric and notebooks and what I do.
Yeah.
So I don't have to provide too much context. Where it's like, hey, we're doing more PySpark, yada yada. It already understands kind of the framework of utilizing PySpark and Fabric, and we are on our way.
I like it. I like it. I'm with you, Tommy. I maybe I need to take another look at the sidebar things. So I do enjoy having the chat icon there. I think it makes sense, or having the Copilot available. I probably should be adding a couple more agents and things there to make it a bit more effective. Um, and I don't know where it fits in this spectrum of things, Tommy, but having more of like a knowledge base, right? Um, I've heard of things like Notebook LM for like research and doing like taking notes in like a more AI centric way would make sense. That way I could have like a more of like a knowledge collection of things that I understand. Um, I need to do a bit more of like, I have a lot of knowledge. It's all stuck in my head. It just hasn't been materialized into like an agent or something that I can collectively put a bunch of information around and ask questions to it. So I'll have to spend some
Well,
more time figuring that out.
you're the one that's really kind of taught me the approach to this because yeah, there are so many tools like, oh wow, I'm going to learn any history book I want. I can learn it in 2 hours thanks to
Yeah.
this new GitHub repo.
Yep.
That's well and great, but the thing with is just utilizing those. Hey, quick thing, need this, get that, move
Yep.
on our way. So
Yes.
yeah.
So let's jump into our main topic. I think that's pretty
Oh
good
yes.
for our intro. Oh, sorry. One last note. Marco puts at the very bottom of this thing, he says one other performance indicator. And I did not know this. This is something that was new to me. Everything else he said so far was I agree with, I align with. The last one, oh, yeah, Aaron, thank you for the comment here. Obsidian is one of the ones that's for like organizing knowledge. That's Tommy, you use Obsidian, correct?
I use Notion. That's
Use Notion.
Obsidian,
Okay.
surprisingly, yeah.
So that's I use a lot of Loop. It feels like these Obsidians and Notion should take from like what Loop is doing. Loop should just migrate into like these other technologies. It should help you out more things like that. So not sure how those are all working, but yeah, I'm gonna need to check out Obsidian. I've heard a really good idea around keeping that for knowledge organization as well. Anyways, moving on. Sorry. The last note from Micro says, oh, and one last note, just for the future, not myself remembering these details, but it's always better to convert a CSV file into a Parquet file one time. And he's talking about CSV to Parquet and not a Delta table here. He's just saying create just the file. So taking the CSV file, transforming it into the Parquet file, and then reading the Parquet files. He said he was consistently getting a better performance, and it wasn't like a small performance increase. It was a substantial performance increase as he was doing things inside that table. So Maybe just one side note here. If you're using data flows to write data down to a lakehouse, if you're using other experiences, you can write them into Delta tables if you want, but you also may just want to consider taking data and just transforming it from CSV to Parquet. Again, just a Parquet file, which is a columnar stored file. Just use that alone, and that alone will help you build out better, more efficient pipelines as well.
Again, I also feel like we've done this. I've heard this before. Like this is already there, something that's been proven in the community and what data engineers already do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Enough of my rambling around how much I love notebooks and how much you should start using them. So if anything you take away from this, if you're not using notebooks today, you should definitely spend some time. Marco recommends them. I recommend them. Tommy recommends them. You should definitely spend some time getting more familiar with notebooks in 2026 if you haven't already. That's your easy win here for 2026. All right. That being said, let's go into some of our awards. I don't know how we do the order of these awards, Tommy. I'm going to let you just pick whatever you think is good to start off with here. But maybe state your award, and then I'll state what part of Fabric applies to that award from what I observed.
So thank you very much. And I'll give kind of a little brief more context on what we're doing here. So again,
go ahead.
These are not real awards. You're not going to find this on Gartner's Magic Quadrant or someo's Spider.
Or maybe we should.
Maybe we should. Microsoft may not like all of these.
Explicit measure, magic mushrooms something. I don't know.
Someone's been playing Super Mario.
Exactly right.
No, honestly, what we are just doing is having a little fun. Where if we ever wanted to give out our own awards, both on the things that are frustrated and kind of cool, these are not MVP awards. They're just more fun. And you're going to see by the names of the rewards that we literally made all of these up. Honestly, it's about, but Mike, it goes back to our day to day when we're in the grind, when we get frustrated at things like, man, if there was an award for this, this would win. And just kind of give a shout out to what 2025 was. So let's go with, we have a lot to choose from. Let's go with a fun one off the bat. This is going to be called the most likely to be disabled by IT award.
This is a good one. I thought this award was a really funny title here.
So thank you very much. And again, the idea here is Microsoft's always coming out with new features as quickly as possible. But if you ever worked with an IT team, they are very adverse. And there are some things more than others that are going to make them go screen to the disabled button. So, Mike, I got to hear from you. When you looked at what came out in 2025, what was or some of the things that immediately got you out of or into the IT mode?
Yeah, and let me kind of slightly preface this here right now. My understanding is there are some ways for you to turn off specific workloads inside Fabric, right? If something's in preview, you can turn it off and not let users use it. But once that workload gets into GA, I don't think there's really any way to turn stuff off at this point. I'm not really sure. So, so I'll just preface this with this is like a fictitious feature, anyways, because IT technically can't turn everything off yet. I don't know. Maybe that'll get there eventually at some point. But one of the things I think that IT would most likely turn off is the Fabric user-defined functions.
Ooh.
So I think that's a feature that IT sees a lot of risk around, just because anyone could write any function. Functions can talk to external APIs. It can do any kind of data transformations. And also, I think if we're talking about like a business intelligence team, I don't think our first go-to is, hey, let me build a user-defined function and use it in my workflow. I think that's more of an advanced feature. I think pro users or professionals, developer professionals, would be the ones to explore, learn, and use that feature. So I don't think it's a very commonly used feature yet. I have done a ton of demos around task. It's called the. Oh no, I've done a bunch of demos. I'm drawing a blank on the name here. It's write back basically, or write back, or using
the transanalytical
task flows. Like, so that's the transanalytical task. You need a user defined function, a Fabric user defined functions to make those work. So yes, it's part of the system. Yes, it does some really powerful things, but I think there's a lot of we're not IT doesn't understand like where that security lives and how we secure them correctly, and therefore I think people will turn them off because people are worried about the user defined function modifying tables or data or messing things up. So I think that's one of the features that I would say IT will likely turn off. What do you think, Tommy?
Interesting. I can't believe that you didn't think of the most obvious one. And Mike, the most obvious one to me is Fabric MCP. You
Oh, that's
kidding?
another one. Yeah. I didn't think about that one either. That's another one
That
too.
is that is literally, if this was a sports team, this was like he's got promise. Like it is, he was made to be turned off by disabled by IT. Wait, so it's a plug, you're a plugin. This is a plugin by Microsoft. Where's the authentication? Well, it's kind of built in. MCPs, not that they're not secure, but here's the thing: nobody really knows because
It feels kind of like a black box.
it's very much a black box, and everyone just wants to use them. So, and especially that most of them don't have to do with authentication. So MCPs, because they can interact with so many things, while amazing as they are, if you're in IT, that is being vetted big time. Because yeah, I actually just thought of that too in terms of no one really knows the security risk of MCPs because they've been out for so short. And but what they allow someone to do is really cool. I don't know. But yeah, MCPs are definitely the one where it's I think that as fun as they are, if you're in a larger organization, and maybe you might disagree with me on this, if you're in a large organization, you shouldn't expect to be using MCPs in Fabric anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean that's one. I'm not sure if I agree with that one. There is so you say the word MCP. There's a lot of MCPs. I think there's like an
Mhm.
MCP for like data warehouses. I think there's an MCP for VS Code. There's an MCP for Power BI Desktop, making manipulating the report. There's a lot of MCPs around. So the MCP space is kind of large. I think. Um, so that's one I'm kind of which MCP are you specifically talking? Because I know there's
I,
a generalized fabric MCP as well, right? I guess that would again, I haven't used that one time, so maybe fill me in a bit here. Is that one where you could
so
like create workspaces,
yeah,
create report? Like what does it do? What does the fabric MCP do?
so it just simply allows you to touch there's the Fabric MCP and there's a Power BI semantic model MCP. That are the two big ones. The Fabric MCP simply allows you to actually kind of monitor and through a conversational piece, interact with your Fabric environment, see what
Okay.
items are out there,
Yep.
create, etc. And then the semantic model one is simply that interacting with your model, you can update things and get information from it.
Okay. So we're kind of on the same page here. So I guess I would say I'm probably more on the side of the fabric MCP. The IT team might turn off or only turn on for a select few. I would argue that MCP, if you're going to turn that on in the admin settings, that would be something you would definitely want to govern with a security group. Create the security group of fabric MCP users, and then attach people to that, and then put that user attached to that specific feature. Um, yeah, I could see that. I could see that one. However, I don't know if IT is going to be able to turn off MCPs inside VS Code and doing things like local changes on your semantic models.
That
That's
I
what
think that's really different though, because that's again the individual. When you're thinking the Fabric MCP that's talking to your enterprise data, uh,
I'm just saying. You said the word MCP. I'm just
this
thinking
is true.
about like that term to me comes with a lot of different pieces, right? So you say MCP, that could mean a lot of different things to different people. Like, what are you interacting with, right? Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
I'm not
100%.
debating your comment. I'm just saying that term seems loaded to me.
Okay, all right, and that's fair. I let me put it this way: I don't think anytime soon we're gonna have that integration with like other MCPs where, hey, I'm talking to Slack and I'm actually interacting with my Fabric environment. I think it's still the individual's not call, but if you have someone who's skilled enough, that's
Sure.
working on their own local machine,
Okay.
yeah, they would be able to interact with it, but it's not going to be anything that's going to be deployed by IT anytime soon. I don't think.
Oh heck no. That's
No.
I would, and this is I think also these two features, Tommy, particularly the UDFs and then the Fabric MCPs. These are all like premium pro very skilled individuals you'd give these access to. Like these are not common. Like launch it across the company and just have everyone go to town with it.
1,000%. So
Next award. Let's go to our next one.
All right. So why don't we? I'm gonna save that one because I really like that one.
Okay.
Well, let's do the it's the best feature that no one has ever read the documentation for award. So this is one that it comes out and we're going to start using it. We'll figure it out. We think we know enough information about it.
Yep.
I've never looked at the Microsoft Docs on this at all.
I mean, let's be real, Tommy. This is everything that comes out from Microsoft. I never read the documentation. I just start clicking buttons and see what I can figure out. Only when I get stuck do I go find the documentation. So I'm not going to answer everything in Fabric. So I won't answer that one yet. Good choice. I will give very specific things. The feature that nobody reads the documentation for is licensing.
Licensing? No, not until you have to pay.
I think everyone's confused about licensing, and the licensing seems to be changing all the time, and there's different. So I feel like everyone has an opinion on licensing, but no one actually sits down and like understands what's going on with licensing and the very specific. This is why part of the reason why we have jobs, Tommy. Their licensing is complex. How do you optimize it for your business? Are you buying a bunch of Fabric SKUs? Are you giving it away for you? Are you buying an F64 level? What turns on at what level? There's a whole bunch of things.
Wait, I thought I could still use Copilot with this. What gives?
So that's my funny one. So licensing is the thing I think no one reads the documentation on. The other one I'll give is probably this new one called.
Right, because you could have said that 8 years ago and it still would have been right.
It still would have been true. Yes, that award has been for the 8th year in a row or 10th year in a row. Still, no one's reading licensing.
That's good.
I will also say data agents is another one of those that I think no one reads the documentation on, and I've had to go like play with it a bit and then like, okay, what are we really trying to do here? What's going on with this? So that's another one I would kind of argue is another space that no one's reading the documentation on. Those are my two features. What do you think, Tommy?
Because there's not too much documentation on data agents for you to read. So it's interesting. And I think because these products are still so dang new, where when you looked at when Power BI came out with before Data Flows Gen 2, they were really updating Gen 1. And they had a ton of articles on like not just, hey, click this button, do this, and now you can start using your data flow. It was best practices guides. It was how do you work? How do they work together? It was different methods and kind of things to look out for. And it would take you a long time to read through through it all. Right now, data agents really just has, hey, set up a data agent, write a good prompt. Hey, connect to your semantic model, just so you know if it's semantic model, you're doing DAX. If it's a database, you're doing SQL. Step 2, deploy, and you're good. So the documentation is very wanting to me where you see what I'm saying, where we don't have that comprehensive, and again, it is new, but that comprehensive, like not just, okay, I click on this, I write a prompt, but Mike, for crying out loud, when they had the Q&A that they're deprecating or they're removing the built-in AI features in Power BI, they must have had 4 articles on the Learn on how to prep your data for natural language.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, things to look out for in your columns. Hey, this is the best way to ask questions. And they were very comprehensive. And that was something that nobody used. So we're still at this point where the documentation is very slim.
I think it's also maybe too, like Microsoft, I don't know if they want to give a ton of guidance around what you can and cannot do with a data agent, because maybe it's it's slightly unknown. It's kind of like very open-ended. Like whatever instructions you provide back to the agent can give you very different answers. Like you can say, be very direct, be very, add no fluff, and it will change how the agent behaves. And maybe that's just something where, as we're exploring like what agents are and how do you talk with large language models, that might be just something in general that we have to figure out and learn on our own. But I feel like data agents have a wide tool set can do a lot of different things. I don't know how to describe it, but it feels like it's a much more of a free floating idea as opposed to something that's a bit more locked down to give you very specific things like a Q&A visual. So I think that's an
Yeah.
advantage. It's also maybe a disadvantage because then it's harder to write documentation around it. And maybe we just need some more best practices and guidance documentation to show up for that, which again, back to your point, Tommy, Microsoft's not supplying that today currently, but maybe they need to supply that over time.
And I honestly, Mike, you hit the nail on the head too. It's not so much on all the like the style of the prompt, even though they should be able to at least have what each, system instruction should have, but also how do you deploy it? What is the best way to get people to start using it? Right. And I think that's the hardest thing with a lot of these is, okay, cool. I can create a data agent and I got to write a good prompt, which again, they should probably have a few pages on prompt styling and semantics. But then what? Like, okay, what are some examples of deploying an agent out to consumers? So things like that, I think would be really helpful.
I'd agree. All right,
So,
you want to pick our? What was your?
So mine is what you would never think of it is mirroring and shortcuts. Because it's so dang, yeah, I thought that was a good one. They're so dang easy to set up. They do have configurations, but I mean, once you heard about it, you're like, oh, so I just click that button and it's connected. Cool. I don't.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
I have been caught a few times with where a shortcut had to get updated, and then you go to the configurations of the shortcut. You're like, I've never seen nor know what any of these properties are. So shortcuts does work marvels, and it's meant to be easy. However, make sure you still know what you're doing.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that one. There's probably some edge cases or things that it can or cannot do that you need to be aware of. I do like a lot of the mirroring. I don't know how many people actually experiment with it. One of the things I think that's interesting with mirroring is when you start talking about mirroring to SQL, it's to some degree mostly free of what the mirroring is doing. I think that's an underrated feature of mirroring, that you get a lot of free storage of what mirroring is doing in order to get that feature turned on and used within the system. I think that's kind of interesting.
It is kind of a marvel that we have mirroring, and maybe because it's just not the fanciest feature, we don't hear too much about it. But I mean, the fact that we're not paying for getting that data into Fabric, or maybe Microsoft's paying an arm and a leg, just so data is in Fabric. Still, it is something that should definitely be utilized.
I'm not sure. So I would maybe argue it a slightly different way, Tommy. I think one of the reasons why Microsoft is doing that is because Microsoft is kind of SQL Server. That's kind of like their space. Mm-hmm. I think they really want to incentivize people to use more SQL-esque things. And in order to reduce the friction between using SQL and getting it into Fabric, really, when we're talking like transactional systems, SQL, versus analytical systems, Fabric, they want to make that, if the less friction you have between those two worlds, the more you'll want to just go buy the rest of Fabric. And I think Microsoft is very wise in doing that, because the spend that comes through other things that happen inside Fabric, lake houses, other items, makes a lot of sense to have that mirroring just kind of available to you. And I believe what's happening there is,
get started.
Yeah, and I believe what's happening there is the SQL Server is doing like transactions, and then Fabric is reaching in and going to grab those transactions and pull them in directly to Fabric, so that way it's reading the transaction log and making sure records are up to date. I like this. I feel like a lot of times there are very consistent patterns in data engineering. Hey, I need to get this table. This table needs to be fully copied every day. Mm-hmm. Or this table is a full copy every time. Delete and replace. That's a pattern that's very well known. I want to incrementally load this table. Any new records that change, here's the information that decides when a new record is updated or changed. I only want to grab the newest or the latest or the changed records of data, and then I want to go update my original table. That pattern is also very well known. So I feel like now that I've been doing data engineering for a lot longer now, I feel like the patterns of what I see data happening are becoming more repeatable. And I want Microsoft just to solve more of those common patterns in an efficient way. And I feel like mirroring meets a lot of those needs.
1000%. So, dude, off to a good start. Do you want to pick the next one, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll pick the next one. Let's see here. let's do this one. This is going to be a bit more of like a okay. I understand this one. This award goes to. This award is this is going to matter way more in 2026. What feature of Fabric is going to matter way more inside 2026? So I guess this would be like the large impact award. So for me, this one is what's going to matter way more in 2026. I think the proliferation of workloads are going to be much more impactful this next year. I think people have been starting to explore around it. Microsoft seems to be putting a lot of effort behind it. There's currently a competition going where people are able to build their ideas around what a workload is and decide what that looks like. But I think there's more thoughts around what we can do with workloads. So I think this is going to matter a whole lot more inside 2026. That would be my choice around workloads. Maybe I could throw in a secondary award here for this one as well. I think the OneLake catalog is an underrated feature today.
Catalog, okay.
So OneLake catalog, and there's like security and things for admins in there as well. Purview doesn't really tick the box for me. I don't really like Purview. It seems like a whole separate system that doesn't work very well with Fabric. However, I really like the OneLake catalog. The OneLake catalog makes a lot of sense to me. I can see all my tables. There's semantic models there. There's a little bit of lineage. I can start adding descriptions to stuff. There's a little bit missing, I think, in the OneLake catalog. We don't have descriptions on lake houses, lake house table names, and lake house column names. But I think with a little bit of enhancement, the OneLake catalog could be very impactful for the organization for like data discovery, organizing your content, using tagging, adding domains to things. I think a lot of these other elements would make a lot of sense for people who have large Power BI environments where there's going to be a lot of data pushed together. So I think the OneLake catalog could be a great discoverability item for people as well. So I think the combination of workloads, Fabric workloads, and OneLake catalog are two features that are going to be very impactful for this next year.
I hope so, Mike. I have so much hope for the OneLake catalog. I still use it, but again, I'm waiting for that governance piece that they talked about to be part of it, because I would love for that to be kind of the hub for data governance to go to, and to make that more friendly than rather a list of items. But I do hope 2026 is years the OneLake catalog. However, for me, I have a few, Mike. I wanted to say Fabric IQ as going to matter way more than 2026, but it's, in basketball and football, if a guy doesn't play long enough, even if they had a great season, they're not eligible for the MVP or eligible for the award. So for me, as much as I would love to say Fabric IQ is definitely the front runner here, just didn't have enough reps yet. It came out the end of November, if I'm not mistaken. It was right
at the end of the year. I think it was announced at the Ignite conference. It was announced there, and then like very soon thereafter, you're able to start playing with it and start doing things with it. And again, it seems like an interesting concept. What's actually been deployed and developed doesn't seem to me to hit the mark, and I'm not sure quite yet how to use it. It's still confusing to me.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it is so new, because Mike, you and I were like, hey, we're going to do 2 months of episodes on this. This is changing everything now. And then our first few episodes, we were looking at the 2-3 pages of documentation going, okay,
not much here.
What do we use this for again? Like, so it's just for a data agent. Okay. What's an entity? So, and just going through that. So yeah, I think there is an award for Fabric IQ. I just don't know what it is yet. But I'm then going to shift and then say it's going to be data agents, and they're not going to be demos. They're not going to be things that you're just showing the team. The goal is the perfect synergy between a Fabric data agent and Copilot Studio. That's where a data agent should shine, where the user, no matter where they are, can interact with their data as via the data agent in Copilot Studio, wherever they're at in their workflow. If they're in Teams, if they're in Outlook, if they're in Fabric, heck, they should be able to on their phone, if they have the questions, or actually start actions getting moved from that data, not just asking, show me a bar chart.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're trying to get to with a data agent. It is not just to be a more conversational way to build your dashboard for consumers. It should be able to trigger responses to, again, what the data that's actually being worked on by that team. Yeah, you can get those latest numbers, but if that's all you're doing, we missed the mark.
Mm-hmm.
So I see data agents in synergy with Copilot Studio and Copilot agents to really be at that point where this is going to be something that everyone's talking about.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Tom. I think these are a lot of clear points. And again, I would also agree with you, the Fabric IQ. I think it seems the sales pitch of Fabric IQ seems really relevant. Like what Microsoft markets it as makes a lot of sense. How you actually build one and how much time is required to be spent to build one, I think that's a miss in my point, right? Today, currently, you can go into a semantic model and say, from this semantic model, build a ontology, right? That works, and it just kind of builds out a number of items for you. But where's the other automation? Why can't I add a second ontology, a third one, a fourth one? There's a lot of buttons and clicking, and like it seems to be like a lot of manual effort to make it work, to get the kind of ontology that you want inside the Fabric IQ pieces. And so I'm not necessarily confident that I want to spend a whole bunch of time building a bunch of Fabric IQ things, because I don't even know if that's going to add a lot of value to the data agents at this point. So it feels like it's something that they're trying to prepare for. I hope they spend a lot more time in 2026 automating how to get things into the ontology. How do you bind things together? How do you bring more tables together inside that space to make it easier for people to use? So we'll see. I'm not sure about. I'm a little, to your point, Tommy. I'm skeptical about that feature.
Okay. No. So, but yeah, I think data agents is definitely where we're going to be leaning. I am intrigued in like where we're at the middle of this year in 2026, where Fabric IQ is. Is this something that we're putting on our LinkedIn profiles because it's taking the world by storm? I really hope it's not one of those one and dones. Obviously, you can see they're investing in it, but it's a blue collar prospect. That's what we'll say.
Okay.
Just to keep going with the analogy. All right, so we got a few more left. Do you have another one that you really like, or
no? I'm kind of indifferent on the last three here. I can do whatever. Okay. Maybe you pick the one that you'd like to talk about next.
All right, so let's go with. This is why we can't have nice things. I love this one. I love this one so much. But what this award is it's an amazing feature, but people are going to break it because they are not either have the skill or the experience in that background. We've talked about this when it comes to Microsoft making a prettier UI, but it's missing all of the bells and whistles and all the configuration and features. Just for someone to do a copy job, there's a lot that goes into that. So with all these things that are coming out that are easy, shiny to look at and do have some of that wow factor.
Yep.
Well, if you don't have the necessary background and experience, things break. And I am going to actually, I do want to hear yours first.
Okay. I'm gonna go a little bit off the rails on this one. So Tommy, the way you describe the feature is like you have to have a lot of knowledge. You can't use it; it won't work right. I'm just going after implementations that, in my mind, just miss the mark.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Things that. So when I read this one, this is why we can't have nice things. For me, I looked at this question of this award and thought, this is where we just flubbed the deployment of it. We just flubbed the whole item of it. So one of the things I'll probably say around this one is the new feature that was highly touted, I guess, was inside a Fabric environment. So when you're building in Fabric, you click at the little icon in the bottom left-hand corner, you change from Power BI to Fabric. The whole new workspace tabs feature, whatever that is, I don't use it. I don't like it. That's just to me, that's just like a lot of noise. There's a whole bunch of like colors that appear, and then you have a whole bunch of workspaces that are like colored. That's just, to me, a flubbed feature. I understand maybe why they did it, of switching between tabs too much, But in general, I can't stand the feature. I don't like it. It seems awkward. I don't want to use it. I just stay in the Power BI experience as much as I can because those
Keep
colored
my tab.
tabs, just leave it alone. Like, what the heck? That was just a miss of a feature. I don't know what it's there
You're
for.
hilarious.
To
That's
me, it feels
actually a
like
pretty good. That's a
I
pretty
don't
good
think
one. You,
so.
yeah. No, because you're like, I will keep my tabs. I will keep showing on multiple monitors.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't have a problem with this because I have a lot of screen space, but I just in general can't stand. When I go from the Power BI space and then over to the Fabric space, I get messed up all over the place. I can't find where things are. Things are reoriented. If I go from the Power BI workspace over to the Fabric workspace, the workspaces icon gets stuck in different places. So in Power BI, the workspaces is at the bottom. Over in Fabric, workspaces are at the top. Like, it's just make them all the same. I just get messed up. I don't like it.
and on top of that, too, the tabs are so small that you can't read anything that it says. It's interesting though, too, because initially I was going to love the idea because I could see where they were coming from because I would get annoyed going to Fabric. Oh no, this browser refreshed while I was waiting, and now I have to rerun things. It was a nice idea, but they kind of changed the way people work with computers, and how like our experience working in browsers and try to change that complete workflow. So yeah, I didn't want to admit it, Mike, but because I really do feel bad for the team because it was something that I was hoping to have, but just I guess not that execution. I would be intrigued if Mike. I wonder if the number's higher than you think. If we polled all of our listeners,
Well, I
do you
know
think?
already Johnny Winter is already, is going, what? What are you talking about here? Workspaces tabs are awesome. So I could be just a stick in the mud here. I think that's a very polarizing feature. I think you either love it or hate it. I'm of the opinion I don't love it. I don't think it's very useful. I think trying to force Power BI or Fabric to live only in one web browser window is a mess. I just don't think it's one of the things I think I wish I could do a lot more of when I'm in Databricks, and I'm gonna directly throw some shots fired here. If I'm in Databricks and I need to open another tab, almost anything I click on in Databricks, I can control click that item and it will immediately open up a new tab. And yeah, I may have a couple tabs open in the browser for what I need. But for whatever reason, Tommy, I cannot seem to control click a workspace. You can't control click on a workspace and get
No, no.
a new tab to open. So just okay, I understand why you made the whole tab features in Fabric. Get rid of that. Just allow me to control click any of the workspaces and allow me to open up a brand new tab for that workspace. I think that would actually solve a lot more of my problems. I think that would be much more helpful for to me than having to add this whole new tabbed feature. It just seems like wasted effort, in my opinion.
Dude, I never thought about that, but how frustrating is that with the workspaces? Yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot of things you can't just or control click or right
Yep.
click because I want to know. Not that I get scared when my browser opens a new tab, but I like to control that,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I like it going in the background first, especially when
Yes.
I'm working on things. I don't want this like pause going, what happened? And then a new tab opens up without me wanting. So that's the feature. That's your feature, Microsoft, that you work on.
Yes. I'll also let me give you. So that was my one thing that I kind of complained about here. This is why we can't have nice things. The other thing, the other reason why we can't have nice things. Okay, Tommy, this is going to be very nitpicky here as well. You remember how we had workspaces, and when you'd open up the workspaces pane, there was like the cut off or limitation of the workspaces names, right?
Yes.
So the names would always be shortened because the name of the workspace was too long. Well, Microsoft said, "Look, we've listened to you. We're going to make this a lot better for you. Oh, and by the way, we're going to give you a button in the upper right hand corner, and that button will allow you to expand the window. But there's no shrinking and growing, and like I can't make it as wide as I want to see names of things. It just doubles the size of the window." And I look at myself going, you guys just didn't listen at all. Like, I don't want a button at the top of my workspace window that makes it wider, but still sets me to a specific width. Every other UI that I've seen around like things that expand and can close, or, everything I'm used to in Power BI Desktop, all those panes are fully expandable up to a certain maximum length size and can shrink down. I don't want a button. I want a handle on the on the workspaces that I can grow and shrink it as much as I want. So to me, this is another one of those, flubbed features. If I look at it, okay, someone put this in. I feel like the PM missed the mark on that one. I didn't want a button to just expand the workspace pane. I
It
wanted
doesn't
a
help me.
handle
Yeah.
to make it open or bigger, like smaller or larger. Like that's what I wanted.
It doesn't help me. And it's one of those almost nearly frustrating things because I feel like a lot of other UIs have that. So it's like this is still built on Power BI from 2015, which I guess is old now, and it's fine. But I'm usually working, Mike, on my multiple monitors, right? So it's not always the
I got
most
space.
frustrating. Yeah, I
I
got
got
space.
space.
I got space. I got a lot of space, but I do know. Um, I remember it was actually when I first started working with Power BI. Someone's like, "The report's wrong. All the things are bad. You made it terrible." I'm like, "Wow, okay, let's go through it." And then I didn't. I realized that the person was zoomed in 200% on resolution,
Oh yeah,
and
that
it was
can't.
already on like a 12-inch laptop. I'm like,
Ooh,
well,
you're gonna have trouble working with this.
you're gonna have trouble working in anything. Yeah. So it's not just Power BI, but you kind of had to think about that. And anytime I'm on the road, um, I'm thinking of other people here too, where just make it uh, customizable, just drag and drop. We all love clicky, clicky, draggy, droppy. Do that with the UI rather than just data. Um, I like that one. All right, so I am going to take this a little different direction because that's a really good one. I'm going with GitHub, Mike. I'm going with Git and Fabric.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. So the number one question that I get on LinkedIn when I don't work with a client is, would you mind sitting down with our team for an hour or 30 minutes just to walk through some things we're going through with Git? It's the number one thing why people will cold, like, just can I pick your brain? And about how do we navigate this in Fabric? How far should we go?
Okay. Yep.
Just hearing the frustrations. And the nice thing though, Mike, is most of the people in the teams, they want to handle it themselves, like
Sure.
because they're trying to learn it.
Yep.
But they're trying to learn it. And it's really going through with not just an individual member, but that leader or that manager and the rest of the team. And then
Mm-hmm.
trying to delegate that. And those people going, I'm barely touching this. And I have to be part of all these these meetings. And basically everyone is really just trying to understand how deep the well goes.
So let me react to the GitHub piece. I think this is a very advanced feature that we're bringing to a lot of business intelligence developers that have not been required to use this, right? The most amount of effort that we've had to spend as the business developers or BI developers is, where's the report? What's the Excel file? How do we store backup of that file on SharePoint? That's really, it's backups basically. We think about backups of things. We're not thinking about deployment pipelines. We're not thinking about deploying things. I think this is definitely a borrowed experience from the IT realm. As your Power BI environment grows to really large enterprise grade things, you're going to have a lot more people or education around what DevOps is, how to store backups, and how to deploy things. Right? You're gonna seek out a lot of automation to deploy. We're working on some really large customers right now, and that's one of our main stories with them is don't do things manually. Let's figure out how to automate the deployment as much as we can through different environments and really focusing on that effort. I think that's a very solid skill that's required when you get to large scale, bigger enterprise deployments because you can't rely on a Tommy pushing through a report from dev to test to prod on a Thursday afternoon and assuming everything's going to be just right. Right? We want as much of this automated as possible. So we spend our time working on the automation. And I think this is where a lot of Git stuff starts. It's just a new world for a lot of business developers. So I think you're right, Tommy. It's a really good thing to have. There's a lot of questions around how to use it, how to use it effectively. Um, yeah, I agree. That's a good one.
All right. So I don't know if we're at time, but dude, I've really enjoyed this. We do have one more, but it's up to you if you want to do it.
Let's do the last one. I think we actually have two more, right?
Oh, so we have this is gonna be like I think you may be right. So
So I'm going to do this other one here. Okay, Tommy, here's the next reward. The best feature that requires a long, awkward conversation. I think this is a funny one. What feature, Tommy, would you say is a feature of Fabric that would be requiring that long, awkward conversation?
Well, you already took my thunder because I was going to say Fabric capacity billing and
Okay.
model changes and all the different
Yes.
changes that they had, and whether you're paying for a database and you don't have to pay for Copilot, but you probably should. So it's already getting awkward there. But in an effort to not be too redundant here.
Yes.
That's the first one. That's the first awkward conversation.
So I was going to say, Tommy, I thought your awkward conversation would have been metric sets.
You see, no, I was saving that one. So, I was saving that for the nice things one. Dang it. So that's right. I had it. I wrote it down too, and I was like, when am I using that? So metric sets. No one really cared anyway. So I don't think it's that big. It's that big of a loss. So apparently, dude, I don't even know if anyone was actually using them production wise. I never heard anyone who was like, at least from a larger organization, was like, no, we rely on metric sets. Did you ever hear that at all?
No, I think it was a novelty. Again, it's one of these features that I think had a lot of excitement behind it when it came out. I thought it was a really neat feature. I really like this idea of building the metric and then applying the dimensions to the metric. I think maybe where we got stuck a little bit on that feature was it just took too many clicks to get one metric built. And we needed a bit more automation to figure out, like, what if you could go to a report and say, in this report, here's all the metrics you should be using. Like, here's all the measures that are being used in different visuals. Here's all the dimensions that apply to them. We're going to auto build you a handful of metrics. That might have been a bit more useful. Take an existing report with information in it to help you generate that information would have been interesting.
I think the only reason they deprecated is because I had the bet with
Emily.
With Emily on.
No, it wasn't Emily. It was Carly. You were betting Carly, and you said I think half of all usage from Fabric was going to be.
It was even worse than that.
It was bad.
In 5 years, once metric sets become GA,
it
will have more usage than reports.
Tommy, I think you really missed the mark on that one. Yeah. Okay. Did you bet something on that one? Did you bet like a steak or some food?
I think it was one of those just gentleman's friendly one, because I'm like, I also don't know the next time I'm seeing Carly.
Oh, true.
So it was she probably knows because she was right about this, but I think it was more of a pride, just kind of gentleman's bet. But
we'll make a t-shirt and say Carly was right, Tommy was wrong.
That's fine. That's fair. Tommy cared more about metric system than he should have. So, but to me, it was the initial idea. It was what scorecards were trying to be, right? Where at the end of the day, a team, a user, a leader can quickly have trust and understanding on what the core important numbers are. And what metric sets did was take that up a level to actually say, no, you want to know the problem I've had for years, where what's the number of leads? What's the number of members? Well, you got to look at this report, but don't look at his because he has a filter on it, and everyone gets frustrated that way. So no, here's your core numbers. This is a governance piece now. So these are the, based on a number of things, leadership, where you want to look. All the reports have filters and things that we do, and you're grouping by things, and we have to make it look pretty. Here is how many members we have. Here is what our number of sales our units and or whatever are. And I love that but obviously people have to use it and want to go there. And I think that's what Microsoft's finding is they may get people complaining about these things, but no one was gravitating to it.
Let's go to the my other one. So you said licensing, right? And metric sets of those awkward conversations. So my feature for the best feature that requires a long, awkward conversation is, drumroll please, task flow diagrams. I mean, it's
That's
there. Every time I do a demo, the task flow thing window is open. It's there. Every time I say, well, we don't use that, we close it. And I just click a little button, boop, and it closes itself. That's a very visible feature and then people ask me, well, how do you use it? And then I go in and say, oh, well, it helps you group things. It gives you like a general broad diagram of like how things are linking together. You could have a lot of things in the workspace. It does this automatic filtering. And people are just like, Oh, and then we move on. So for me, explaining what a task flow for the workspace is just awkward. It's the whole thing is just awkward to me when I talk to people about it. It's there. It's part of the UI. Most often, I do not use it. I'm using a lot more folders, and I'm using a lot more organization in other ways. So to me, that's one of the areas where I see there's an awkward conversation with people on the phone talking about Power BI.
It is even worse too, Mike, especially when you actually have a half-built task flow that you have to quickly hide out of.
Yeah,
You're like,
correct.
yeah, it's like, no, you built something. Show me. You're like, it's really not worth it.
It's not worth it. It doesn't. There's the lemon is not really worth that squeeze at the end of the day. And I don't think that feature will ever go away. I also don't see any new features coming to task flows.
No.
So I don't. There's nothing. There's the task flow diagrams is not getting any net new features. So it's just kind of going to be there and it's going to be in part of the product. So
You know the day that the task flows died for me.
Day one.
When it, I think it was day one when it was so buggy where I like to rename the task flows, obviously.
Sure.
However, it would not like you would type 3 letters.
Yeah.
That was the name of your task flow. It would basically
it was over aggressively like accepting the name too fast.
So what I had to do was write the name on Notepad and copy paste.
Copy paste. That would be
I'm
weird.
like, what am I doing?
That was in the early days. It doesn't do that anymore. They fixed that.
No, but it's still like you want it to be a little more creative, I guess. It is so not static. It is so rigid. And you're like, I already deal with rigid stuff. I don't need another wannabe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's where like
Agreed.
make it like Miro kind of thing.
Yeah.
In terms of because I think that's what it's trying to be, especially if I'm just doing this for myself to brainstorm or plan out. Like you want that at least that freedom to be a little more creative. But they're thinking that this is what you're going to show everyone. So task flows, that's a good one. That's a good one.
So I will say that one, and then the other one I will just kind of another tag on here would be one around. I'll just call it dashboards. I don't ever use dashboards. That single pane of glass where you have a whole bunch of visuals and you click on one and it goes directly to the report where the visual lives.
Oh,
people still use the word dashboard and report interchangeably, but dashboards in Power BI are a very specific thing, and I don't even talk about them anymore. And people, if you upload a file, like so, the only time I see a dashboard appear is like when you upload a file from your local machine using the upload file dialog. You get the semantic model, you get the report, and you get some kind of very simple dashboard. I don't know how many people actually use dashboards. I think that's very, very limited now in these neat features here. So that's one that I'll say is another one that it's just an awkward conversation. Again, this is a feature. It exists. It's a single pane of glass. You can click on the visual, go into the thing, but I don't ever use it. And so we move on.
Yeah, but that's also, I mean, Mike, I think we've been saying that. We've been having that awkward conversation since 2018.
It's been out for a while. Yep, I agree.
So
anyways, that's it. I think that's all we have for our awards. I hope you've enjoyed our awards today. Just kind of a little bit of poking of fun and things that we like and things that we found that were interesting, things you may want to look at, and things you may want to, you have also felt some pain around talking through some of these features as well. That being said, we hope you've enjoyed the podcast. We really appreciate you listeners that we do this for you and have a lot of fun with the community. Thank you, community, for having a lot of chat here in the window on YouTube. We really appreciate that as well. If you want to join us on the chat on YouTube, feel free. Come on over to YouTube. We have a chat. We do these live every Tuesday and Thursday, and we'll be online. With that being said, Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. Do you have a question, idea, or a topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Maybe this whole make up your award thing takes off and you have awards that you want us to do. Well, head over to Power BI Tips /podcast, leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, and join us on all of Power BI Tips social media channels.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate you. And we'll see you more in the year 2026.